So I recently photographed a cosplay convention where I had a studio backdrop with a white cloth, and I used just speed lights because that's all I have right now. And I did my best to make the background white, but as you can see, the background isn't truly white. It's actually kind of blue. It's definitely visible, and it's not the look that I wanted. I wanted a pure white backdrop. I'm not a studio photographer, so this is definitely not my strength, and I'm sure with a little bit more equipment and some more tweaking, I can perfect this technique. But I wanted to show you a trick in Lightroom that will help you make backgrounds purely or almost purely white, and you can touch up the rest in Photoshop if you need to. But in many of my photos, I was able to do it completely 100% in Lightroom, and it's actually rather easy. You don't have to do a whole bunch of tedious masking or selecting, stuff that you would normally be doing in Photoshop. First, what we're going to do is go into Develop module by hitting D. First, going to boost my exposure a little bit because the brighter the better. That obviously makes the background white. Now up here, it appears to be pretty much pure white, but down here, it's not really, it's not there yet. And I can't just keep boosting the exposure to make the background white because then it looks like she's in the middle of the sun. So there's only so much you can boost exposure to fix a problem. And of course, shadows can only do so much as well. So we're not going to ruin her for the sake of the background. Instead, we're going to use the adjustment brush. So by hitting K, we can get our adjustment brush tool selected quickly. And we're going to be painting on the background to make it brighter. So we're going to add exposure and drop the saturation of that area of wherever we paint. So if I paint over her, that looks awful. But we're going to paint over the background. The real trick to this magic brush is by turning on auto mask. So once that's checked, what's going to happen is when I paint over an area, it's going to be automatically masking what I'm painting. So I'm not selecting her at all. Lightroom is doing the hard work for me, and it's calculating and thinking for me, trying to figure out what is the area that I'm painting and what is the area that I'm not painting. So as you can see, it's doing a pretty good job of going right around the edges of her body, of her clothes, and only painting over the background. That's only because auto mask is turned on. If that was not on, I would have painted all over her edges and it would have looked really bad. So once we painted around her body, we can actually turn it off and just paint in the edges because we're not worried about the auto mask on the edges because she's not on the edge of the photo. And it also saves on some computer processing time because if you have a slow computer, this auto mask feature might not be very fast or user friendly. I've got a decent gaming laptop, so it does a pretty good job, but there is a little bit of a lag. Okay, so I painted around her. I want to show you a few quick tricks for the adjustment brush tool. If you hit O, everything turns red, or at least everywhere that I've painted. Now look, I didn't know that I missed this corner, so now I know because I hit O for overlay. So O is very helpful for showing what you've masked and what you haven't, and I can also see that I've accidentally painted over her forearm. Or perhaps the auto mask thought that her arm was part of the background because it was quite bright, so it painted over her arm. I can undo that by holding Alt. When you hold Alt, or on Mac, I believe it's Option, it turns into a minus. That means erase. So I'm going to make my erasing brush a little bit smaller. I'm still holding Alt. I'm going to erase this area because I don't want her arm to be, selected. Just painting over the background. Oops. There we go. I'm going to go back into normal brush. I let go of Alt, and I can click. There we go. It popped right around her arm. I'm going to zoom in by hitting Z, and your amount of zoom is set over here in the navigator panel. So I'm going to set my zoom to 2:1, which is 200% size. Okay, maybe that's too much. Let's do 1:1. So look, I'm painting in the white area. Don't drag over the person's body. If you want to only paint the background white that's already white, don't drag over their body. Don't put the center of your paintbrush over their skin, because watch. It adjusts and it says, oh, you want to paint skin now. Okay. But I don't want that. I only want white to be painted on. So don't ever let the center of your brush get onto what you don't want to paint, or it will start adjusting accordingly. Over here, fill in these little gaps. There are a few weak spots here I can easily fill in. And it's doing its best to go around the hair. It's doing a pretty good job. Let's see what happens if I click in the middle of these little hair spots here. Wow, look at that. That's pretty good. That would have taken quite a while to do in Photoshop, depending. Click up here in these little crevices, where the edges meet. I'm using spacebar to turn my cursor into a hand. Then I can click and drag downwards and let go. So the spacebar is kind of like your panning tool. Very helpful for getting around a large photo quickly. Okay, I'm filling in these little crevices. I'm going to hit Z to zoom out. Oh, I didn't do her armpit up here. All right, pretty good. Now, So I'm still on overlay, that's why it's red. If I hit O again, overlay goes away, and now I can see what my brush is actually doing, which in this case is increasing the exposure. My last thing to make sure I did a good job is I'm actually going to drop the exposure like crazy. And yes, I know that looks awful, but this is going to help me really for sure know, oh, I missed that spot. You can turn on or off the auto masking feature if you need it. If you're painting against the body, keep it on. If you're painting the edges or empty areas, just turn it off, make it faster. And if you click on the spot, just one click, it'll kind of fill in that area. That's good enough for me. Okay, so I'm going to put the exposure back up. Now this part is still visible, so I'm going to increase the exposure some more. Keep going. Oh, a little crazy. Don't get too much. Don't go further than you have to. There we go. And you can also bring up your shadows if you want. Like some of that area that I was trying to get rid of was actually in the shadow range. So I can play with my shadows. I don't know why texture and clarity are up. Let me fix those. But definitely want whites and exposure going up. So down here on the bottom left of your brush panel, you've got actually an on and off button. You can see kind of before and after. So I'm going to turn on overlay and I'm going to fix that. Hold Alt and erase the star area. Erase the star area there. Oh, and these stars on her skirt. There we go. So turn off overlay by hitting O. That's pretty good right there. There's a little chunk over here by her foot. I'm actually going to use the navigator to just real quickly pan down there. Watch, if I click on this little dark spot, there we go. It goes away. Nice. So that's it. Now, if you have a black backdrop and you're trying to make it darker, you'll of course drop the exposure on your adjustment brush, and I'm sure you'll be able to darken that background pretty easily with this technique. Thanks for watching this video, and let me know in the comments what you thought about it and if it works good for you.